The Corellian Deep Space Observatory had never seen anything like it, not in the last 6,000 cycles of careful galactic monitoring. A sharp, jagged hole tore through subspace on the edge of the Telvac sector, like someone had stabbed reality itself. Out of that hole came a ship, silent and dark, shaped like a spear and made of matte black metal that didn't reflect light or energy. No identification codes, no known engine signature, no communication beacons. The observatory's scanners tried to track it, but its movements didn't follow any known flight pattern. It didn't bend space-time, it simply moved through it. Like the rules of physics were just suggestions. The Corellians sent warnings to the Council of Galactic Peace, but by the time the alerts reached the capital world of Argonexus, the strange ship had already crossed 3 defended zones without challenge. And then it stopped, right in orbit over Elion Prime, the most heavily guarded neutral station in the quadrant. Defense arrays turned toward it, weapons locked, and thousands of species on the station held their breath. That was when the voice came. Calm, clear, spoken in perfect galactic common with no accent, no distortion. It rang out across the system. Like thunder, "This is Commander Elena Voss of the United Earth naval ship Caliburn. We come in peace, but we are not here to ask permission." A shiver ran through every listening outpost. The words hit harder than any weapon could. United Earth, a myth. A ghost race from the Terran arm, sealed away behind a wall of silence for over 300 years. Most species believed they'd gone extinct in their own wars or had simply chosen exile, but now a single ship had arrived, and that message, it wasn't just a greeting, it was a declaration. The Council called an emergency meeting. Panic spread like wildfire. The Zaltari warned of ancient human war myths, rumors, that Earth had once fielded entire fleets that bent black holes to their will. The Villari shared quiet tales of traders who had seen glimpses of strange Terran machines under asteroid shells, silent watchers that never attacked. Now, with this single ship floating over Elion Prime, the fear became real. No demands, no weapons fired, just silence and the weight of presence. The Caliburn didn't move, it didn't scan. It just waited, like a predator in deep water daring anyone to blink first. Military strategists scrambled to analyze the ship's design, but none of their scans penetrated its hull. It was as if the ship wasn't made of normal matter. And, worse, it wasn't alone. It had AI, that much was certain. Every encrypted network on Elion Prime was being probed, silently, gently, but unmistakably. Commander Voss hadn't even landed, and yet every defense officer on the station knew one thing. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a ship lost in space. This was the first move in something much larger. And whatever the humans had planned, it had already begun. The Galactic Council chamber on the core world of Argonexus was never silent, not even during war or disaster. But on this day, when the Caliburn appeared, it was quiet enough to hear the mechanical breath of the room's air circulators. Every representative, dozens of species from every corner of the galaxy, sat frozen, their holographic displays showing the same terrifying image, the Black Terran ship hovering above Elion Prime. High Chancellor Raltorin of the Zaltari was the first to speak, his scaled fingers twitching. "This is not a ship," he hissed. "This is a message wrapped in armor." The Villari matron, calm but pale, replied, "We do not understand its technology. We cannot trace it. It did not arrive using any known FTL corridor." In truth, the Caliburn hadn't used any corridor at all. It appeared by forcing a hole through subspace, creating a ripple that no galactic species had ever mastered. No beacons had warned of its arrival. No defense platforms had detected its approach. It simply appeared where it wished and when it wished. And the message it broadcast, the voice of Commander Elena Voss, had reached every planet in the sector within moments. Her words had been clear, strong, and most dangerous of all, fearless. She had not asked for talks or treaties. She had not shown weapons, but she had also shown no concern for the rules of galactic diplomacy. The Council watched a playback of her message again, and the silence that followed felt heavier each time. "We come in peace, but we are not here to ask permission." The Drask representative, Admiral Thol, slammed his armored fist against the table. "Then they come to conquer. We must prepare the fleets. No one crosses our space and dares to claim authority." But others weren't so quick to act. The Craney ambassador pointed out that no aggression had been shown. No weapons fired, no interference with traffic, just presence, he said, voice smooth. "They want us to react. That is the trap." Behind closed doors, security chiefs reviewed the strange data coming from Elion Prime. The ship's surface could not be scanned. Its energy signature shifted constantly, as if designed to confuse every sensor at once. Defensive AI across the station had gone on high alert, not because of a direct threat, but because the Caliburn had done something unthinkable. It had started listening. Without any transmission, it had begun to monitor, translate, and understand thousands of different data streams, quietly, patiently. Already it had mapped the Council's defensive positions, communication protocols, and orbital satellite patterns. Council scientists argued in whispers, "It's not just reading signals, it's learning in real time, adapting, faster than anything we've seen." Panic set in behind polite political speeches. Delegates started to whisper old myths about humanity, rumors from centuries ago, when humans still communicated with the rest of the galaxy. Some said they had experimented with forbidden energy. Some said they had gone too far and were forced into exile. Others believed they had simply waited, evolving silently, while the rest of the galaxy fell into petty politics and slow technological growth. Now they had returned, and they weren't sending diplomats. They had sent a single ship, and somehow that was enough. In the shadows of the council chamber, a few species began to fear the truth. What if the humans were never gone? What if they had always been watching? What if this one ship was just the beginning? Even worse, what if it was all they needed? In her dark chamber, the Valari matron contacted her private intelligence director. "Do not observe the Caliburn," she ordered. "If they see us watching, we are already compromised." On Elion Prime, every security feed focused on the black ship. It hadn't moved, not even a meter, but everyone on the station knew it was aware. Civilians locked their doors. Military crews stayed at their posts longer than required. An invisible weight hung in the air, as if the very presence of the Caliburn bent reality around it. Then a message arrived, not from the Caliburn, but from a neutral merchant ship in a nearby system. They had picked up a strange signal days before the Caliburn appeared. It was faint, like a whisper, but it carried something ancient. A Terran. Code. A warning, maybe. A beacon. No one knew what it meant, but one thing was certain now. This arrival was not random. The humans had planned this. And they were not rushing. They were moving slowly, deliberately, with confidence that only came from strength. The Council ended its emergency session with no action taken. Some wanted to attack. Others wanted to negotiate, but no one agreed on anything, and that terrified them most of all. Because, while the galaxy debated, the humans waited, and every second they waited, they grew stronger. 3 days after the Caliburn arrived, when the galaxy still sat frozen in fear and argument, the ship spoke again, but this time not to one station or one council, but to the entire quadrant. Every broadcast channel, every satellite stream, every emergency frequency suddenly stopped, replaced by a single message. It didn't come with noise or warning, it just began, sharp and direct, with the same calm voice from before. "This is Commander Elena Voss of the United Earth Naval Ship Caliburn. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy. We are here to reveal the truth. Across planets, ships and stations, beings of all kinds froze as massive holoscreens lit up with information, documents, images, transmission logs, surveillance footage, all marked with the seal of the Galactic Council. At first, it looked like routine files, but soon the meaning became clear. These were hidden reports, covered-up crimes, operations labeled "Need to Know" that were never meant to see light. The Caliburn was showing proof, clear and impossible to deny, that the Council had, for centuries, manipulated wars, suppressed new technologies, and even enslaved entire species in secret to maintain control over trade and power. Names of leaders were exposed. Locations of illegal facilities were shown. Exploited planets, drained of life and abandoned, were revealed with exact coordinates. Commander Voss's voice continued, calm but sharp. "We did not come for vengeance. We came for balance. Your council has hidden the truth long enough. Now the people will decide." Riots broke out within hours. On the planet Orionis IV, protests erupted outside council embassies. On Zaltari mining colonies, workers refused to obey commands. Civil unrest began to spread like wildfire, not because of violence, but because of truth. The council tried to shut the message down, but every attempt failed. The signal was bouncing through hundreds of hidden satellites the Caliburn had silently activated before it ever spoke. Even when entire networks were cut, the message played on personal devices. Cargo ship radios, even old emergency transmitters buried in abandoned stations. Panic began to grow within the council. They hadn't expected this. They were ready for weapons, for battles, for demands, but they weren't ready for information, raw, undeniable proof of corruption sent straight to the people. The Drask called it an act of war. The Velari called it revolution, but the Crani and a dozen smaller nations started to speak of change. They asked questions in the open. Why had the Council feared the humans so much? What had the Earth really done in the past that caused their exile? And more importantly, what had the Council done to make sure they stayed away? While the galaxy tried to understand the storm now tearing through its systems, the Caliburn remained. Still silent again, watching. It had no need to attack. It had already fired its first and most powerful weapon, truth. In a private chamber on Argonexus, the High Chancellor demanded to know how the humans had obtained the Council's most secure files. But no one had an answer. The files were not stolen. They were copied long ago from hidden nodes that no one even remembered. Somehow, the humans had been inside their systems for years, maybe decades, waiting, learning, watching. Commander, Voss had not come to make threats because she didn't need to. She had already broken the Council without lifting a finger. But the most unsettling part of her message wasn't the data. It was the final sentence. This is only the first truth. There is more to come. And then the message ended, leaving billions of citizens across the galaxy staring at blank screens, wondering what the next truth would be, and whether it would finally tear down everything they thought they knew. The Council could no longer remain silent, not after the public collapse of trust, not after Commander Elena Voss's message had spread across the quadrant like fire on dry leaves, and not after whole colonies began to turn against their leaders. The time for talk had ended, at least in the mind of Admiral Thol of the Drask, who stood in his war chamber, glaring at the image of the Caliburn suspended over Elion Prime like a shadow that refused to move. "We send a message of our own," he growled to his officers, "and our message is fire." Within hours, 10 Drask warships launched, sleek and deadly, weapons armed, their orders clear. Approach the Caliburn, surround it, and disable it by force if needed. The fleet moved fast, engines blazing as they entered Elion Prime's outer orbit, and on the surface, everyone felt the tension thicken like a storm about to break. News spread fast across stations, ships, and cities. Humans were finally about to be challenged, and many waited, breath held, for the first real spark of war. But the Caliburn didn't move, didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge the incoming fleet, and that silence only made the Drask more certain it was bluffing. "Prepare EMP payloads," Thol commanded, sure that this strange human ship could not resist 10 coordinated attacks. And so the order was given, missiles launched, streaks of blue energy aimed straight for the Caliburn's hull. But before they struck, something happened that no one expected. The Caliburn disappeared, not by speed, not by shields, but vanished. Like a reflection swallowed by still water, no signal, no trace, just gone. Then, one by one, the Drask ships began to fail. It started small, navigation screens flickering, then guidance systems locking up, then main power cores dropping into emergency mode. Across all 10 vessels, alarms blared as pilots lost control and engineers shouted in confusion. Weapons shut down, engines stalled, communications jammed. All at once, every warship froze in space, trapped without damage but unable to move, like flies in a jar. And then came the message, but not through speakers, through their own systems, flashing on every screen in bold white letters. Retaliation protocol engaged. Stand down. No voice followed, no threats, no human presence, just those cold, silent words. Across the fleet, panic crept in as officers realized the terrifying truth. The Caliburn hadn't needed to dodge their weapons. It had known they were coming, had predicted every move, and had shut them down with precision, disabling 10 of the most powerful warships in the sector without firing a single shot. On Elion Prime, silence returned as the Caliburn reappeared, exactly where it had been before. Still silent, still untouched, as if it had never moved at all. The message had been sent clearly, not just to the Drask, but to the whole galaxy. We are watching, we are faster, and we don't need violence to win. The Council held another emergency session, but now the tone had changed. Some members were furious, demanding immediate retaliation, while others, more afraid than angry, began to question everything they had believed about the humans. If one ship could do this, how many more were out there? Were they already among them? Had humanity truly returned with this kind of power, or was this just the beginning? Commander Voss still said nothing more, but her silence now carried more weight than words ever could. The Drask fleet floated helplessly in space, their systems slowly returning over hours, never fully damaged, only disabled, like a teacher correcting a student without punishment. And across the quadrant, a strange new feeling began to spread, something the Council had not seen in generations. Not fear, but doubt. People began to wonder if perhaps the humans had not come to destroy, but to reveal the weakness of those who ruled by secrecy and force. And still, the Caliburn waited, quiet and unmoving, a black mirror reflecting the galaxy's fear back at itself as the next stage of its mission silently prepared in the dark. The uprising did not begin with weapons or orders, but with silence. The silence of civilians who refused to obey, workers who stopped moving shipments, engineers who left control stations, and entire crews who turned their ships away from Council beacons. It started on the outer colonies, places long forgotten by the Galactic Council, where power lines flickered and supplies were rationed while the core worlds lived in luxury. And when the Caliburn's message revealed the truth, the people out. They were the first to believe it, because they had lived that truth for generations. The spark came on Feros 9, a mining colony run by automated overseers and patrolled by council guards, where workers had always accepted their place in fear of punishment, but not this time. This time, the miners sealed the shaft gates and refused to power up the drills, demanding answers about the real ownership of the ore they pulled every day. And when the guards arrived to force them back, they found their weapons non-functional. hacked by someone or something they could not trace. The uprising spread like a current through the stars, jumping from system to system, not as chaos, but as awakening. Stations began to fly banners with a strange symbol, a black triangle on silver, the new mark of Earth's return. And everywhere that symbol appeared, people stopped following council protocol. Cargo fleets rerouted themselves, supply chains broke, and communications networks were jammed by local citizens demanding justice and reform. The council tried to respond quickly, sending peacekeepers and ordering planetary leaders to restore order. But their commands arrived late or not at all, as if the entire galactic network had been quietly compromised, and many suspected it. The Caliburn still hung in orbit over Elion Prime, unmoving, saying nothing. But the quiet pressure of its presence had become heavier than a fleet of warships, like a silent judge watching every action. And with each passing day, its influence spread without a single new word. On the Council's core world of Argonexus, protests finally reached the surface, a tidal wave of voices filling the sky plazas, demanding trials for corrupt ministers, calling for resignation of military leaders who had lied about wars, and asking the one question no one dared to speak before: why did we ban the humans? The truth came out slowly, buried in the files the Caliburn had released 3 centuries ago, when Earth had risen too fast and created technology that scared the ancient powers. The Council chose exile over war, spreading lies that the humans had destroyed themselves, when in fact it was a decision made in secret to lock Earth out of galactic growth. Now, that decision had returned to haunt them, and the people no longer trusted those who had kept them in the dark. On smaller worlds, local governors fled their posts, fearing revolt, while others switched sides and began open talks with citizens under the symbol of Earth, hoping to survive the wave of change. The Council declared the uprisings illegal, labeling those who joined as traitors, but the declarations had no weight because no one was listening anymore. Not the common worker, not the merchant captains, not even some of the planetary militias. In space, Council patrol ships began to go dark, not destroyed, but simply vanished, with reports that their crews had joined the rebellion or gone missing without trace, and rumors grew louder that Earth had more ships, hidden ones, cloaked, in the shadows, waiting like ghosts for the right moment to show themselves. But even among the rebels there was fear of what the humans truly wanted, because though the Caliburn had revealed the lies and broken the chains, it had never said what came next. And in every mind was the same silent question: if they could do this with just one ship, what else were they capable of? In the shadows of power, the Council began to fracture, with leaders blaming each other, secret alliances forming, and desperate plots whispered in quiet rooms to stop the rebellion before it reached full collapse. But it was already too late. The people had changed, the truth had been seen, and the galaxy could not return to how it was. Commander Elena Voss remained quiet, her ship still a statue in the sky, but her silence spoke louder than any weapon. The galaxy was already tearing itself apart, and she had not fired a single shot. And still, behind every whisper of revolt, behind every protest and every stolen council file, the same silent phrase echoed everywhere: this is only the beginning. The galaxy stood at the edge of something it could not understand, and the silence before the final storm was almost too loud to bear. The Caliburn still waited above Elion Prime like a ghost ship, dark and quiet, but its presence had cracked the very foundation of the Council's power. And now, after weeks of uprisings, defections, and collapsed systems, everything pointed to one final moment: the reckoning. In the Council's high chamber on Argonexus, the last of the original rulers gathered under heavy guard, their eyes hollow, their power thin, and their hope slipping away with each passing hour, because the people no longer believed them. Their fleets no longer obeyed, and even the loyal worlds were beginning to ask if survival meant surrender. Commander Elena Voss finally broke the silence, sending one final transmission to every system at once, her voice calm, clear, and slow, as if the words had been waiting for years to be spoken. The truth has been seen. The old order is broken. You must now choose how you face the end, by running or by answering for what was done. No threats, no demands, just a promise that something final was coming, and then the message ended, leaving the entire galaxy frozen once again. But this time, it was not just fear, it was judgment. Above the core worlds, the Caliburn moved. For the first time in weeks, slowly turning toward the Argonexus system, and as it did, strange signals echoed across the stars, and hundreds of small, dark shapes began to appear. Silent ships, sleek and invisible to all scans, revealed only by their shadows against starlight. Earth had not returned with one ship after all, but with many hidden in deep space, cloaked from every known sensor, and now, at last, they revealed themselves as a single, united fleet, not to conquer, but to witness. The people who had followed. The rebellion cheered, but they also watched closely, unsure what would come next, because no one knew if the humans had returned to forgive or to destroy. On Argonexus, the Council tried one last move, activating an ancient orbital defense system that hadn't been used in centuries. But before the cannons could fire, the Earth fleet sent a pulse through the system, a burst of data and code that shut it all down, not by force, but by unlocking hidden failsafes left there long ago, suggesting the humans had been planning this for much longer than anyone believed. Then the Caliburn sent a final message, but this time only to the Council leaders. The galaxy has seen the truth. You will now answer for what you've done, not to us, but to your people. And with that, thousands of encrypted files flooded. Public networks, trial documents, testimonies from suppressed species, financial records showing the theft of entire planetary resources, and proof of assassinations covered up by Council agents. Within hours, the core worlds erupted, not in war, but in something even more powerful: justice. Civil courts opened emergency hearings, citizens formed truth councils, and former allies of the Council turned them in, hoping to save themselves by helping the people who had suffered. Across the galaxy, statues fell, Council emblems were torn. Down, and in their place rose the symbol of the Silver Triangle, Earth's mark of truth, not control. Surprisingly, the humans did not take power, did not land troops, did not claim systems. Instead, they left instructions, blueprints for fair governance, technology to repair what had been broken, and a quiet suggestion that the galaxy could learn to rule itself without fear. Then, one by one, the human ships vanished into deep space, their mission complete, not as conquerors, but as judges who had revealed the corruption and walked away, letting the people decide what came next. The Caliburn was the last to leave, drifting away from Elian Prime without ceremony, just a shadow pulling back into the stars, leaving a galaxy forever changed, its lies burned away by a truth too powerful to stop. And though the humans were gone once again, every world remembered their words, and every child learned their name, not as monsters or myths, but as the ones who came back not to fight, but to reckon.